Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Officer Bloke Aidan.
I'm Gaynor.
I'm Sophie.
So we've got the sports hero who died a war hero.
Okay.
Name's Patrick Tillman, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not too sure about this, to be fair.
No, I don't.
Officer Bloke Daz told us to give it a watch,
Yes,
didn't
he
he?
recommended it to us, so
Yeah,
He has,
said
yeah.
that he watched it with the guys and
Ex-NFL player, I'm guessing from that.
yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, quite an interesting one. You ready?
Yeah.
Give it a look.
Patrick Tillman, the celebrity who became a U.S. Ranger. On January 6, 2002, Patrick Tillman, who played the defensive safety position for the Arizona Cardinals, an American football team, ran onto the field for what would be his last game as a professional player. Tillman enjoyed a celebrated career in the NFL, or the National Football League, playing 4 seasons for the Cardinals and totaling over 300 tackles in his role as a safety. At the end of the season, he was offered the opportunity that every athlete dreamt of, to continue playing professionally together with a 3-year, $3.6 million contract. However, neither football nor millions of dollars were on his mind. 4 months before his last game as an Arizona Cardinal, Patrick was among the millions of people who tuned in to watch the catastrophic 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center buildings in New York City. Stunned, angry, and frustrated, Tillman knew that he could no longer be satisfied just playing football. He felt compelled to join the U.S. Army and serve his country, and so on May 31st, 2002, he declined his new NFL contract and enlisted in the Army to help the United States in its fight against terrorism.
Wow.
Patrick was the eldest of 3 brothers and loved looking after his 2 younger siblings, Richard and Kevin. Born in San Jose, California on November 6, 1976, he played football at Leland High School and excelled in his coursework. Throughout his life, Tillman strove to prove his critics wrong. Although he was 5'11" or 1.8 meters tall, he was often told by the coaches that his size would hinder any real opportunity for playing football at a high level. But that wouldn't stop him from leading his high school team to a Central Coast Division I football championship. Everyone who came into contact with him recognized his talent, dedication, and determination. Among those who admired him was the Arizona State University football program, who offered him a scholarship. From 1994 to 1997, Tillman worked tirelessly to help the ASU Sun Devils on the football field. In 1998, his childhood dream became a reality when the Arizona Cardinals selected him in the 7th round of the 1998 NFL Draft. He became a star player on the roster when he broke the franchise record for tackles in the year 2000 with 224. When Tillman was approached by another NFL team, the St. Louis Rams, with a $9 million contract, he declined it out of loyalty to the Cardinals.
9 million.
Yeah, that'll probably be across like a period of time though, wouldn't it?
Oh, okay.
Like it wouldn't be 9 million every year. It'll probably be like signed for 3, maybe 4 years, and then you get 9 million across the 4 years.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it works in the NFL anyway.
Still a lot of money
Oh
though.
yeah, big time.
For
Get
probably
paid
doing
get paid a
something
lot.
Yeah.
In the NFL, especially when it's not really like all year round as well.
Yeah.
Off the field, he continued to drive a beat-up old truck left over from his college days. Tillman also didn't possess a cell phone. He was a voracious reader whose appetite for books could never be satiated. His passion for learning carried over into the off-season, where he used his free time to study for a master's degree in history from Arizona State University. He enjoyed discussing his books with the people around him, especially his high school sweetheart, Marie. He was a humble, devoted man who found true joy in getting involved in charity work. He would often volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club and support the March of Dimes, which is a non-profit organization that fights for the health of mothers and their infants. It's no surprise then that following the 9/11 attacks, Patrick Tillman told a reporter that, quote, "A lot of my family is gone and fought in wars, and I really haven't done a damn thing," end quote. He wanted to fight for his country and believed that even though he wasn't a supporter of the president, George W. Bush, the United States was worth fighting for. In the spring of 2002, he married Marie, and upon returning from their honeymoon, announced to the Cardinals that he would be enlisting in the United States Army. This decision caused a public outcry, as many could not understand what would drive him away from the NFL and toward the perils of combat. Tillman refused to speak publicly about his decision, even in the face of national media attention. Patrick and his brother Kevin both enlisted in May of 2002. The following September, they had completed basic training together and moved on to the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program. Graduating from the Rangers program, they were assigned to the 2nd Ranger Battalion in Fort Lewis. Moving to Washington, Patrick lived with his wife until he was deployed to Iraq, where he participated in Operation Iraqi Freedom as part of the initial invasion force. Upon returning to the States, he entered Ranger School at...
You must love your country so much to do that.
I was just going to say, we know somebody who did this. You know, Lee Crooks.
Yeah.
He was a football player. He played for Manchester City and other teams. And he did the same. He left football and went to be a soldier.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good mate, isn't he?
Yeah.
Quite crazy to be fair.
Is he out with the...
He's out now. No. But he does a lot of stuff. Like he does a lot of work with the homeless. He slept on the streets, talking to them, and yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's got to be inside you, that sort of personality and that sort of, you know.
Yeah.
Fort Benning and graduated on November 28, 2003. His next assignment would place him at Forward Operating Base Salerno in Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom, which was one facet in the war on terrorism.
History recruits, it's time for you to take to the skies to defeat our enemies.
But why are we going to war, sir?
Because the enemy doesn't believe in history, recruit. We can't stand for that. Re-education through War Thunder.
On the evening of April 22, 2004, Patrick was on a mission with his platoon and some Afghan militia force soldiers on a canyon road when they were spooked by distant gunfire, mistakenly believed to be from enemy combatants. Previously, the platoon had suffered mechanical difficulties from a broken Humvee and was forced to split into two groups, Serial 1 and Serial 2. Tillman and Serial 1 left the other section with the broken-down vehicle and were making their way to Manah for help when they heard explosions coming from Serial 2's location. Even though Serial 1 had already passed safely through the canyon when they heard the explosions, they turned around to aid their comrades. Serial 1 took the high ground above the canyon to provide cover and aid for Serial 2 in its exit from the gorge. Tragically, soldiers from Serial 2 rushed out of the canyon without realizing that Serial 1 had turned around to help them, and they opened fire on their position. Despite Serial 1's efforts to signal that they were allies, Serial 2 continued to fire upon their position, killing Patrick Tillman and an allied Afghan soldier. Initially, Brian O'Neill was the only person to know the truth of Tillman's death, as he was positioned behind the same boulder as Patrick when he was struck and killed by 3 .556 caliber bullets fired from an M249 saw. He looked at the rock next to them, and he remembered seeing a stream of blood. Everywhere, people were shouting out to cease fire. Eventually, the Humvee full of Rangers who had been firing on Tillman's position came to a stop at 6:48 p.m. and ceased shooting. In all, the firefight had lasted around 14 minutes. Sergeant Mel Ward, who had been above Tillman's position, hurried down to Brian O'Neill, who was screaming, "It was our guys that did it! They've killed him!" Staff Sergeant Weeks soon arrived behind Ward and called the platoon sergeant Eric Godek with the news that One Eagle KIA, call sign Tango, which meant that the deceased Ranger had a surname that started with T. While Patrick Tillman was waving his hands above his head, frantically trying to signal to Serial 2 that he was a Ranger, his brother and fellow Ranger Kevin Tillman was in the back of the canyon with the other vehicles from Serial 2. As his vehicle finally exited the canyon, there was no way he could have known that the body of his brother was lying lifeless on the hillside above him. Kevin was in the last vehicle from Serial 2, and he didn't exit the canyon until after the firefight had already ended. Watching through his night vision as Rangers hauled a large object down in a skedco, which is a sled used to transport bodies, Kevin wondered who had been hit. In the confusion and aftermath of the firefight, only a few men knew that Tillman had died from friendly fire. So when another Ranger informed Kevin that Pat had died, it was with the belief that he had been killed by enemy combatants. Kevin believed that his brother had been killed while fighting the enemy. 10.5 hours after Pat's death, the Army informed Marie that her husband had been killed. Again, Marie believed that her husband had died while fighting the enemy. At this time, all phones and internet terminals available to enlisted men at FOB Salerno were shut down so that the men could not communicate with any outsiders and relay the message that Patrick Tillman had died. By this time, investigations by Sergeant Tommy Fuller and Captain William Saunders revealed that Tillman had been shot by his comrades. In accordance with Article 15-6...
Can you imagine that?
That makes it so much worse, doesn't it?
I know, that's what I mean.
Friendly fire, like, how can you even do that?
Yeah.
You just get confused.
Yeah.
and especially like not being married long, and then imagine as a mother having 2 sons in the military.
Yeah.
You couldn't cope, could you?
I couldn't, no.
Of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, it was recommended that an officer from Salerno lead an official investigation, and Captain Richard Scott was chosen to lead that investigation into Tillman's death. Only being a captain, he was an interesting choice to lead the investigation, as his rank meant that he was directly under David Hodney, who was the man responsible for splitting the Rangers into Serial 1 and Serial 2. Disregarding this irregularity, in the afternoon of April 23rd, Colonel Nixon was notified that friendly fire was the cause of Tillman's death. Next, Nixon met with Brigadier General Stanley McChrystal to inform him of the facts. From there, the commander of the U.S. Army Special Operations was notified, as well as the highest levels of the Pentagon and the White House. Despite the truth coming out to so many senior military officials, one group of people was intentionally left in the dark about Pat Tillman's death: his family. Kevin was blatantly lied to as the body of his brother was being loaded into a plane. Standing on the airfield, he asked other Rangers if anyone knew where the location of Patrick's personal journal was. Patrick was an avid writer and carried a personal notebook filled with his personal thoughts, writings, and reflections. It was very important to Kevin to find the notebook. However, against all operating procedures, Pat's uniform and notebook were destroyed for security purposes. This was just the beginning of a long line of cover-ups, lies, and violations used by the Army to conceal the true nature of his death.
This is a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Got to be.
Fully.
Yeah.
Because, like, at the end of the day, obviously it'd be heartbreaking to hear, like, but you'd just rather the truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, just hold your hands up and say, okay, we made a mistake.
Yeah.
And just deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
Like, this is 10 times worse.
It's come out eventually, hasn't it? Which just makes it worse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Death. The Secretary of the Army, the Armed Forces Medical Examiner, the Criminal Investigation Division, and Patrick Tillman's family would not know the truth behind his death for over a month. In late May, First Sergeant Fuller summoned Kevin Tillman to his office. The Army had by now realized that having Kevin Tillman working in close proximity to the few Rangers who knew the truth about his brother's death would end in disaster. Kevin still had a year left on his contract, and it was believed that at some point his comrades might reveal the truth behind his brother's death. Grudgingly, Fuller informed Kevin that Patrick had most likely been killed by friendly fire. Shocked, Kevin related how such a thing had never crossed his mind. Kevin felt hurt and betrayed that men he had been training next to, eating with, and going on early morning runs knew the truth of his brother's death. Not knowing who he could talk to, he went to Patrick's widow, Marie, and informed her of the news. From there, Kevin boarded a plane and flew to San Jose to tell his parents. Their mother, Danny Tillman, worked tirelessly from then on to uncover the full truth about her son's death. She immediately started emailing senators, generals, and Army personnel, asking questions that the Army really didn't want to answer. Danny had no faith in the U.S. government and made it her mission to expose their lies. Finally, in a report dated from March 26, 2007 by the Inspector General entitled Reviews of the Matters Related to the Death of Corporal Patrick Tillman, the Department of Defense issued a statement saying that, quote, "Our review found that Corporal Tillman's chain of command made critical errors in reporting Corporal Tillman's death and in assigning investigative jurisdiction in the days following his death, and bears ultimate responsibility for the inaccuracies, misunderstandings, and perceptions of concealment that led to our review." End quote. Tillman's legacy, however, should not be overshadowed by his heartbreaking end. Following his death, he was awarded the Silver Star and Purple Heart for his actions. Today, the Pat Tillman Foundation carries on his charitable legacy by providing educational tools and support to service members, their spouses, and family members. Numerous memorials have been commissioned, including 2 bronze statues, one outside Arizona State University and one outside the University of Phoenix football stadium.
Wow.
Some story, that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's very sad.
To play War Thunder on PC,
I'm not listening to that. Anyway, bro, I'm not sure you'll have anyone else like that anytime soon, or
No. It's
it's a very unique story, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of his
Just
own.
trying to help his country as well. Very sad.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.